So good morning. I was having an epiphany this morning about why we have so much homelessness culture in America. Why we have so many kids that are basically graduating with no basic life skills. Yeah, they can pass a test. Good for them. I'm so glad you can achieve on the standardized test. Good for you. But is it applicable to their life? Okay? What I mean by that is, did they learn anything that's sustainable for their life? Real question. Because when I was in high school, back in the ancient times, yes, I'm that old, we had auto mechanics and home economics and wood shop. Those were basic classes. They were, electives, but they were still basic in the realm of public school. Okay? Whatever happened to that? I've seen an abundance of trade school type education, but in order to do those trade school type education, you have to go to an actual trade school for, the arts or, mechanics, and it's not readily available in public schools anymore. You have to go to a specific school, and not everybody has those kinds of funds to go to those schools. So why did you separate that from the public school system? Okay, real question. I remember in high school, they gave me an option. Do you want to stay in algebra? Who wants to stay in algebra? What is that about? Or do you want to go to consumer math? And I'm like, I don't know anything about consumer math. Let's try that. So we tried that. It was good. I enjoyed that class. It made you critically think, okay? Which is highly lacking in our society right now. People can't critically think. It's wild. I've never seen such a generation of people who just are inept. Okay? Anyways, so back to consumer math. Basically, our teacher would come in and say, okay, this is your homework assignment. Go home, grab a newspaper. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's paper, right? That had news on it. Every week, every day, you would get a paper at home and you would read it. And it had information that was happening in your community or in the world. What a concept, huh? And so she said to go into the, real estate or go into the, automotive section, lifestyle. I think it's a lifestyle section. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But, and pick out something that you want to work for, right? Whether it's a home, whether it's a nice car, whatever the deal is, right? And bring that article or bring that sales pitch in, right? And then the next day we had to come into school and we had to figure out how much it's going to cost us with interest, maintenance. A lot of people, they just figure out, oh, well, I can afford those payments. Can you afford those payments? Because let's not forget, you still have rent, you still have utilities, you still have medical insurance, you still have car insurance, you have maintenance on the vehicles. Okay, that costs money. Okay, you have gas or electricity or however you want to put that. It costs money to make things go. All right. And you can't just sign up to get a car and not put the reality of your situation down. That's not going to help you. Okay. So we had to figure out the percentage, and we had to figure out first, she said it's very important that you write down how much you're going to be paying for rent, how much you're going to be, paying for utilities and all this. Factor in all these things, and some people would say, I don't know how much I'm going to pay for rent. I'm not there yet. It's well, that's true. There's nothing wrong with critical thinking, which you kind of put a number out there in the air. It's okay, realistically, this is what the market value is of your apartment, and this is generally what you're going to be paying a month in your area, right? That's how you figure that out. And while it might not be to the T of exactly $750 and some odd change or whatever a month, it is around the same, it gives you an idea, a general picture of how much you're going to be shelling out per month for rent or per month for utilities. What's the going rate for utilities from the low standard to someone who doesn't hardly ever turn on their lights, hardly ever use their appliances and all that stuff, to someone who just excessively decides to turn on every light in the house, turn on the laundry, turn on the stove, all that stuff at one time. I don't understand those people. I don't. I really don't. I don't. I was like, are we not in reality? I don't know what's happening. Are you rich and just want to waste money? Fair question. So back to the trade schools. That shouldn't be a thing. Well, yes, trade schools outside of high school should be a thing. I think they're better than college. They prepare you for more things than college does. Just putting that out there. And oftentimes, trade skills like carpentry, plumbing, electricians, contractors, welders, they'll get these jobs where, you're either paid by the hour, depending on what your skill set is, or a salary or whatever, or even paid by the job, right? And you're set. You're basically set for the year. You don't have to worry about what money's coming in because you already know what's coming in. Where an hourly job or you're in school and you're taking on loans you can't pay back. And you get this degree at the end, and then you're left with, well, why won't people hire me? Because you have no life experience. Does that make sense? Does that ring a bell? And while you might have life experience in like fast food and all that stuff, you don't have any life experience in the industry that you signed up to study. So that's why I liked about University of Phoenix, where they would offer opportunities to intern while you were a student, in the fields that you're trying to study to go into. That way, when you graduate, you have more of a chance to get hired on in those situations. So back to public school systems, the No Child Left Behind thing. While I understand the initial sentiment about that, it was meant to equip students with the skills, the basic skills to move forward in life and basic learning tools and stuff, but that's not what happened. The schools got tired, for whatever reason, of teaching. Imagine that. They got tired of teaching, and they just started pushing students ahead in school, knowing they didn't pass a thing, they didn't learn a thing, and they just kept pushing them forward. And before you say, well, you're not a teacher, you don't understand. No, I'm not a teacher, you're right. But I was one of those students that got pushed ahead. Not that I was incapable, it's that I was lazy. In freshman year of high school, I took off half the year. Like, I would go to school, right? Then I would take the agriculture bus to the farm, and then I would walk home for the rest of the day. I took the rest of the day off, that whole half a year. So my GPA for that half a year was 0.50. And yet somehow, miraculously, I became a sophomore the next year. Make it make sense. It's the No Child Left Behind thing. They're like, oh, well, it'll make them feel a type of way if we keep them in the grade that they're supposed to be. Yeah, that's the point. If they're truly applying themselves in school and they're still getting low grades, that's when the school should pull aside the student, ask them, okay, do you need tutoring? Pull in the parents and ask them, okay, we're going to put you on today they have IP or IEP plans. In today's world, we have what's called the IEP program. And when I first learned about that, I was like, what is that? And what it is an individualized education program. And I think my first experience with that, they didn't call it back then, but I went to a school in El Cajon, California that had a program called the Phoenix program. And basically that Phoenix program, it was on campus at school, right? I didn't go home for anything. I didn't have any specialized tutoring there. But like I'm in a classroom setting. There was only a few of us, and I think the student teacher ratio was like 8-1. Perfect, right? Perfect, because then you get that if you need that one-on-one time to understand a certain type of subject or something. The three subjects that they had us in there for was for English, math, or no, English, history, and I think it's social studies or something. Because I had consumer math outside of that. But those were the main courses. We never had homework. Because we weren't disciplined enough to take it home and do it. So we never had homework. And while you're thinking, well, that's lazy. Is it? I mean, if you know that the student have in that moment in their life that they don't have the discipline to sit there and do the homework themselves, why would you saddle them with a bunch of homework when they can't get the help they need at home for whatever reason? I'm not going to go into my situation, but for other students, for whatever reason, they'll go home and they're expecting their parents to help them, but their parents are too busy, whether it's working, okay? There's good families out there that just work their butts off trying to provide for their families. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's families who just don't care. They would rather take the money that they get from the government and they would go and feed their weed habit. If you're bothered by this conversation, be bothered. I have no safe spaces here for you. Reality. Okay? Reality gut check. If you want a better life for your child, then you're going to do whatever is necessary, including sacrificing your weed, to ensure that your child has the benefits of better education. If that means tutoring, so be it. Okay? If you can't afford tutoring, there's programs out there that will align your student with, public libraries. Public libraries have tutors. Yes, they do. And from what I understand, they're free. That's, I don't know in what area you're in, but yeah, they're free. So I just wanted to put that out there that students with this no child left behind nonsense, we need better teachers. We need better community members to step up. Like, for instance, I think it would be great if the schools reached out to local plumbers, electricians, welders, carpenters, all that stuff, brought them into the schools and had like an after school program or even a class or something and teach them a few basic things, and then if it piques their interest, then they can sign up for like a summer school program or something, to keep them out of trouble, keep their mind focused on something positive, and that way they have a better chance at a better life. But that's just me. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's important that life skills are, presented to students as young as 6th grade. Because, if they have something to strive for other than algebra, maybe then they'll want to learn more. Just saying.